There comes a moment in every life when you discover that the greatest miracle you will ever hold is already in your possession. It is not a secret locked in some distant temple, nor a formula reserved for the chosen few. It is as close to you as your breath, as constant as your heartbeat, and as powerful as creation itself. Your words are magic, whether whispered softly, spoken with authority, or declared in silence within your own mind. Your words are seeds. And every seed, when planted, when watered, when believed, must bloom. You may not realize it yet, but all your life you have been speaking your reality into existence. Every phrase you repeat becomes a command. Every statement you utter becomes permission. Your world takes shape not by accident, but by the continuous echo of the words you allow to dominate your inner chamber. If you want to change your world, begin by changing your words. Not tomorrow, not next week, now. Because life does not respond to what you wish for or to what you beg for. Life responds to what you declare. The universe bends to the tone of your conviction. It molds itself to the picture you speak, as already done. The moment you say, I am, you are summoning creation itself, and everything that follows those two words becomes law for your reality. If you say, I am blessed, life rearranges itself to prove you right. If you say, I am unlucky, the same force will obey. The power is neutral. You give it direction. And so today I invite you to use the sacred tool you have always carried. Say this from the depth of your being. What I speak becomes. My words create my world. Say it with awareness. Say it with courage. Say it as someone who knows they are the author, not a spectator. Every great change begins with a spoken declaration. Every transformation begins with a new inner conversation. Your outer world cannot resist a word that is spoken from the feeling of its fulfillment. When you speak from the end, when you talk as though it is already yours, something opens within you and the world responds. Speak as the one who already has the thing you desire. Speak as the version of you who already lives the life you dream of. Speak as the one who knows that the unseen is more real than the seen. And watch how swiftly circumstances shift. Watch how people appear. Watch how doors open that were never meant to remain closed. For the moment you speak with faith, you activate the law that has always been waiting on you. You are not asking for permission. You are not hoping for miracles. You are commanding your world to align with your inner truth. So today, take your power back. Speak deliberately. Affirm with authority. Choose words that honor the life you wish to live, because your words are magic. And when you speak from certainty, you can manifest anything. Your spoken word is creative power, and what you declare with conviction becomes the mold of your reality. Every word you release carries intention, vibration, and direction. It is not just sound traveling through air. It is an instruction to the unseen forces that shape your life. When you speak, you are not merely expressing thoughts. You are activating laws. You are commanding energy. You are planting seeds that will, with time and repetition, grow into the circumstances you eventually call your life. Most people underestimate the potency of their own voice. They speak casually, carelessly, and unconsciously, unaware that every phrase is a blueprint. Your speech is not separate from your destiny. It is the architect behind it. The tone in which you speak, the belief behind your words, and the emotional charge within your voice, all of these form the structure that reality must conform to. You are not hoping for a new experience, you are instructing it into existence. Words spoken with conviction have a different weight. They do not float lightly through your mind. They press into the substance of life, demanding form. When you say, I can, I will, or I am, with certainty, the world rearranges itself to support your declaration. Not because the world is obedient to you in a superficial sense, but because reality mirrors your inner state. The moment you speak with unwavering belief, you shift your self-concept, and when the self changes, everything connected to it must also change. Your spoken word becomes a mold and your life becomes its cast. If you speak of lack, the mold forms around scarcity. If you speak of abundance, it forms around prosperity. If you speak of failure, the mold shapes itself around limitation. And if you speak of victory, confidence, and possibility, the mold expands to contain greater outcomes. You cannot speak defeat and expect triumph. You cannot speak fear and expect courage. Your world cannot outgrow the container your words create. This is why the inner conversations you repeat day after day matter just as much, perhaps even more, than the words you say aloud. Your silent speech is the script of your life. Every private declaration sends a signal. Every repeated thought deepens the mold. And every emotion-infused phrase becomes law. When you understand this, you become extremely selective about the words you allow to pass through your mind and lips. When you speak with conviction, you are not describing your reality, you are generating it. You are not reacting, you are creating. This is the difference between living as a passive observer and stepping into your role as the conscious author of your life. Speak from faith, and faith becomes substance. Speak from the end result, and the end result begins to take shape. Speak as the person you desire to become, and that person will emerge. Your words are not powerless. They are creative forces, shaping what you experience next. Speak deliberately. Speak with intention. Speak from a place of knowing. For what you speak with conviction becomes the mold your future must fill. Assume the feeling behind your words, for manifestation responds to emotion, not empty phrases. Words alone, without emotional charge, are hollow shells. They make sound, but they do not create substance. True creation begins when your words are fused with feeling, when the emotion within you matches the reality you are speaking into existence. The universe does not respond to wishful thinking or mechanical affirmation spoken without belief. It responds to the frequency of your inner state, the vibration carried by your words, and the emotion that fuels them. Emotion is the engine behind manifestation. It is the magnetic field that draws your desired outcome toward you. When you assume the feeling of what you want, even if only in your imagination, you begin to live in the end. You shift your inner atmosphere to reflect the reality you are calling forth. Once your inner world changes, your outer world must follow, because the outer is only a projection of the inner. You cannot feel unworthy and expect abundance. You cannot feel afraid and expect courage. You cannot feel separate from your desire and expect it to become yours. The feeling is what bridges your current state to your future state. To assume the feeling means to step into the emotional reality of your desire as though it is already done. It is not pretending in the childish sense, but embodying in the spiritual sense. You are not acting as if you have it. You are acknowledging that within the unseen realm, it already exists, and you are aligning with that truth. When you speak your affirmations from this place, your words carry power. They are no longer empty repetitions. They are declarations backed by the energy of fulfillment. This is why some people repeat affirmations for months and see nothing change. Their words are filled with doubt, fear, or longing. They speak from lack rather than from possession. Manifestation is not activated by the number of times you repeat a phrase, but by the emotional state you inhabit while saying it. One sentence, spoken from true conviction, backed by genuine feeling, carries more creative power than 1,000 repeated without heart. Emotion is also the language of the subconscious mind, the part of you that actually manifests your reality. The subconscious does not respond to logic or reasoning, it responds to feeling. When you assume the emotional state of your desire, you impress that state upon your subconscious, and once impressed, it begins to rearrange your life to match it. This is why you must feel it real before it becomes real. Emotion writes a script of your future, and words fueled by emotion bring that script to life. So speak, but do not speak mechanically. Speak from the end. Speak with the emotional certainty of someone who knows their desire is already theirs. Let your words carry the vibration of gratitude, relief, joy, or confidence. Whatever emotion aligns with the fulfillment of your wish, feel that emotion in your chest. Let it rise through your voice and let it saturate your inner world. For manifestation does not respond to empty phrases, it responds to the feeling behind them, the feeling that says, "This is already mine." Speak from the end, not toward it. Declare what already is, not what you hope will be. This is one of the most profound principles of manifestation, and yet it is the least understood. Most people speak from desire, not fulfillment. They speak from longing, not completion. They speak from a place of I wish, I want, or I hope, forgetting that these states only reinforce the absence of what they seek. When you speak from desire, you confirm that you do not yet possess the thing you want. But when you speak from the end, you claim it as already yours. And creation responds to that certainty. Speaking from the end means adopting the identity, tone, confidence, and emotional state of the version of you who already has the outcome. It means assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled and letting that state dictate your words. You are not asking for something to come. You are affirming that it has already arrived. This shift from future tense to present reality is the difference between hope and creation. Hope waits, creation assumes. When you speak from the end, you collapse the distance between where you stand and where you want to be. You stop chasing your desire and begin embodying it. You move from seeking to being, from longing to living. Every word you speak from this perspective carries the vibration of completion. The universe operates on vibration, not phrasing, and it reflects what you are, not what you wish to be. When your inner speech announces it is done, life mirrors that state. Speaking toward the end is rooted in separation. You say things like, "One day I will succeed," "Soon my life will improve," or "Hopefully things will work out." Even if these statements seem positive, they keep your desire at arm's length. You are always looking forward, never standing in the fulfillment. You are mentally placing your manifestation in a distant future, and the future never arrives. Each time you affirm hope instead of completion, you unknowingly delay the result. But when you shift to speaking from the end, everything changes. You begin to speak as the successful version of yourself, the healed version, the blessed version, the abundant version. Your words take on authority, your tone carries certainty. You no longer describe your life from the viewpoint of someone who lacks, you describe it from the viewpoint of someone who has already received. This inner shift is powerful because the subconscious mind accepts whatever you assume as true. When you speak from the end, you impress this truth upon your subconscious, and it begins orchestrating your circumstances to match your inner declaration. This is why statements like, I am, it is done, and everything I desire is already mine, are far more powerful than I will or I hope. The present tense creates, the future tense postpones. You must speak as the creator, not the seeker. To speak from the end is to trust that the unseen is more real than the visible. It is to walk through life with the quiet confidence of someone who knows their desire is already secure. It is to align your words with your fulfilled state and live from the reality of completion. When you speak from the end, you declare what already is, and creation has no choice but to reflect that truth back to you. Your inner conversation is your true script, and the unseen dialogue you entertain becomes the force that shapes your seen world. Long before anything appears in your outer experience, it first takes root in the quiet chambers of your mind. Every day you hold conversations that no one hears but you. You replay old stories, imagine new situations, argue, justify, fear, hope, and anticipate, all within the invisible space of thought. These silent dialogues are not meaningless mental noise. They are the blueprint of your future. The world you walk through is only a reflection of the world you have been speaking within yourself. The space between your people often focus on their spoken words, yet it is the unspoken ones, the constant self-talk, assumptions, and inner narratives that create the strongest impressions. The outer world is simply an echo of your inner world. If your inner conversation is filled with doubt, insecurity, and defeat, then your outer experience will mirror those states. If your inner dialogue is confident, peaceful, and aligned with your desire, then life will rise to meet that mindset. The unseen becomes the seen. Your mind is never silent. Even when your mouth is closed, you are speaking to yourself. And because your subconscious responds more to internal dialogue than external words, what you repeatedly say within becomes your identity. You may try to speak positively aloud, but if your silent conversations contradict your spoken affirmations, the inner story wins every time. The subconscious accepts the most consistent voice, not the loudest. This is why changing your life requires changing the way you speak to yourself. You must pay attention to the script running in your mind. Are you mentally doubting your abilities? Are you imagining negative outcomes? Are you arguing for your limitations? Are you secretly preparing for disappointment? Every repeated inner conversation is a claim. Every assumption you rehearse is a seed planted. Your subconscious mind hears it all and shapes your world accordingly. But the good news is that the inner script is yours to rewrite. You are not bound to the old story unless you keep repeating it. You can begin at any moment to craft new conversations that align with your desired reality. Instead of imagining conflict, imagine harmony. Instead of expecting loss, expect gain. Instead of replaying failure, rehearse success. These mental dialogues, though invisible, carry creative power. They impress the subconscious with new patterns that eventually express themselves in the outer world. The inner conversation is also where you practice being the version of yourself you want to become. If you want confidence, speak to yourself as the confident version. If you want abundance, let your inner voice reflect the mindset of someone who is already provided for. If you want love, speak inwardly as someone already cherished. You cannot become someone new while repeating the inner script of your old self. Life will always present a reflection of your dominant inner dialogue. The world responds to the story you consistently tell yourself, not the story you tell others. When you make your inner conversations align with your desires, the outer world shifts to match them. The unseen dialogue becomes the seen reality, and your inner script becomes the stage on which your life unfolds. Words repeated with faith shift your self concept, and your self concept determines what you manifest. Everything you experience in life flows from who you believe yourself to be. Your self concept is the silent foundation beneath every action, every reaction, every decision, and every expectation. You cannot consistently think, speak, or live in a way that contradicts the identity you hold in your deepest mind. If you see yourself as limited, life will reflect limitation. If you see yourself as powerful, life will mirror that power. The external world bends to the internal image you carry. This is why repetition, especially repetition of words spoken with faith, becomes such a potent tool of transformation. When you repeat words with conviction, not mechanical habit, but genuine belief, you begin to overwrite old mental programs. You dissolve old identities that no longer serve you. You plant new assumptions that begin to express themselves as changes in personality, behavior, and destiny. Words become seeds, and when you plant them consistently with faith, they grow into the self you desire to embody. Faith is the key. Words without faith bounce off the surface of the mind. They do not penetrate, they do not root, they do not transform. But words repeated with feeling, with certainty, with the quiet knowing that what you say is true, these words reach the subconscious. They travel deep into the fertile soil where identity is formed, and they begin to reprogram the way you see yourself. When your self-concept changes, everything else must change with it. Most people try to shift their lives by changing outer conditions, unaware that their inner identity will always recreate the same patterns. You can change jobs, relationships, environments, and habits, but if you still carry the same self-concept, you will eventually repeat the same experiences. Change must begin from within. You must become the person who naturally manifests what you desire before the desire can show up. Words repeated with faith help you do exactly that. They reshape your concept of I. When you say, I am worthy, with true belief, your subconscious begins to align your actions and circumstances with worthiness. When you say, I am abundant, your mind shifts to the identity of someone who expects and attracts abundance. When you say, I am chosen, successful, loved, or favored, and you speak these words with faith, you are not merely affirming, you are redefining yourself. And reality can only reflect the identity you assume. Self-concept is destiny. You cannot manifest anything inconsistent with the person you believe yourself to be. This is why inner work is more powerful than outer effort. When you shift your self-concept, manifestations that once seem impossible become natural, effortless, and automatic. You no longer fight for change. You become the change. You no longer chase blessings. You become the version of yourself that naturally receives them. Your words, when infused with faith, are the tools that carve your new identity. Speak them consistently. Speak them confidently. Speak them until they are no longer affirmations, but truths. Truths you feel, truths you live, truths you embody, for your self-concept determines what you manifest, and your words, spoken with faith, determine your self-concept. What you say about yourself becomes law in your world, and this is why you must affirm consciously, not carelessly. Every statement you make about yourself, whether spoken aloud or whispered in the privacy of your mind, creates a decree that shapes the conditions of your life. You are always declaring something. The only question is whether you are doing it deliberately or unconsciously. When your words are careless, your life becomes a series of unintended outcomes. But when your words are conscious and intentional, your life becomes a reflection of your deepest truth. Your identity is built upon the sentences you repeat. If you habitually say, "I'm unlucky, I never get opportunities, nothing works out for me," or "I always struggle," you are not simply describing your life, you are commanding it. The subconscious mind accepts whatever you confidently state about yourself. It does not argue, it does not evaluate, it does not question, it simply obeys. And once it accepts something as true, it begins to organize your experiences around that truth. You become the living expression of the story you repeat. This is why it is dangerous to speak negatively about yourself, even as a joke. The subconscious mind does not understand humor, sarcasm, or exaggeration. It registers the words, absorbs the meaning, and shapes your identity accordingly. When you say, "I'm so stupid," "I'm always broke," "I'm not good enough," or "I can't do this," you are unknowingly giving your subconscious the very blueprint of limitation. Your life then bends itself around those limitations, reinforcing the very things you wish to escape. But the moment you begin to speak consciously, intentionally choosing words that align with your highest self, you reclaim your power. Conscious affirmation is not about pretending or lying to yourself. It is about choosing the version of yourself you wish to embody and repeatedly speaking it into existence until your subconscious accepts it as fact. When you say, "I am capable, I am worthy, I am favored, I am powerful, I am abundant," you plant seeds of identity that grow into the reality you desire. These words become the new laws of your world. They shape your decisions, influence your expectations, attract new circumstances, and shift your emotional state. A person who affirms worthiness makes different choices than a person who affirms lack. A person who declares abundance attracts different opportunities than someone who declares struggle. A person who speaks from confidence experiences a different world than one who speaks from fear. Affirmation is not merely positive thinking, it is identity formation. You are deciding who you are. And once you decide, everything in your reality rearranges itself to match that identity. This is why conscious affirmation is one of the most powerful tools of transformation. It overrides old programming and constructs a new internal framework that your outer world must eventually reflect. To affirm consciously means to speak with awareness, intention, and conviction. It means choosing your words as carefully as you would choose the blueprint of a house you plan to build. You would never allow an architect to scribble random shapes and call it a plan. Yet many people allow random thoughts, careless words, and emotional reactions to serve as the blueprint of their lives. Your words are law. They set the standard for what you allow, what you expect, and what you receive. Speak with purpose. Speak with authority. Speak with the awareness that every sentence, shapes the world you step into next. Affirm consciously, for your words determine your destiny. Everything returns to one simple truth. You are the creator of your reality, and your words are the tools of creation. Your speech is the bridge between the invisible and the visible, between imagination and manifestation. When you speak with intention, emotion, and conviction, you breathe life into the unseen. You shape the very fabric of your experience. Your words become the law your world must obey. They mold your self-concept, command your circumstances, and summon the life you desire. So speak not from fear, but from faith. Not from longing, but from fulfillment. Not from weakness, but from the power that already lives within you. Choose every word as though it were a seed of destiny, because it is. Let your inner conversation match the life you wish to live. Let your affirmations rise from certainty, and let your voice declare what is already yours in the unseen. When you speak from your highest self, life listens. When you speak from the end, creation responds. When you speak with conviction, your world transforms. Your words are magic. Use them wisely, boldly, and consciously. Thank you. Thank you for listening, for opening your heart, and for choosing to step into the power that has always been within you. May your words shape miracles. May your voice create new beginnings. And may you walk forward knowing that everything you speak with faith is already on its way to you. Thank you. Imagine for a moment that everything you desire is not somewhere in the distant future, but already exists. Not in a distant world or in someone else's life, but right now, as a reality waiting to be acknowledged within you. The secret to transformation lies not in striving harder, not in seeking outside confirmation, but in the inner realization that your wish is already fulfilled. The moment you live from this state, your outer world must respond, for your reality is merely the reflection of your consciousness. Everything begins in your imagination. Every picture you hold in your mind, every feeling you entertain shapes the life you experience. When you imagine your desire as real, when you feel it in your body, your mind accepts it as truth. This is the creative act. It is done before you see any evidence in the physical world. Doubt, hesitation, and worry are the only barriers. Once they are released, the doors of manifestation swing wide open. Now is the moment of creation. Waiting for the right time, for circumstances to align, or for others to validate your vision only delays your reality. The present is the point of power. When you consciously assume the feeling of your fulfilled desire now, you plant the seed that will inevitably grow into physical expression. Your reality is about to shift because change always begins within. Faith is the engine of this process, not blind faith, but the quiet, unwavering inner certainty that what you imagine is real. This faith is not a hope or a wish for the future. It is the acknowledgement of a truth that exists in the unseen realm. Hold this truth in your mind, dwell in its reality, and the external world cannot help but conform. Let go of the evidence outside. Circumstances, people, or events do not dictate what is possible. Your reality is shaped from within. The external world is simply a mirror reflecting what you consistently assume to be true. As you change your inner state, the reflection must change. It has no choice. Your reality is about to change because it is already done. All that remains is for you to claim it, to live as if it is already yours. feel it, believe it, and act from it. The universe responds to consciousness, not to circumstance. What you hold in your mind with unwavering certainty manifests, and now is the time. Step into this truth. Your life is waiting to reflect the reality you have already imagined. Everything you desire is not a distant dream or a far-off possibility. It exists now, waiting for you to recognize it. The moment you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you step into a reality that has always been ready for you. Your outer world is merely a reflection of what you accept as true within. To live in the end, to feel as though your desire is already accomplished, is to place yourself in harmony with the reality that has been quietly awaiting your acknowledgement. The key is not in striving or struggling, but in fully embodying the state of having, being, or experiencing what you seek. Imagine your desire vividly. Let it fill your senses. See yourself living it, experiencing it, and feeling the satisfaction that naturally accompanies its fulfillment. Let your emotions respond as if it is happening now, not later. This inner state, when sustained with conviction, becomes the seed from which the outer manifestation grows. The universe, responsive to your consciousness, aligns with the reality you persistently assume. Every doubt, hesitation, or longing anchored in the future only delays what is already yours. By dwelling in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you signal to your consciousness that the desired reality is not something to wait for, but something to inhabit. The mind does not differentiate between what is imagined vividly and what is physically present. When you live from the end, when you feel the reality of your desire within your being, you set the law of your imagination into motion. You become a magnet for circumstances, people, and opportunities that mirror this inner state. Your outer world has no choice but to conform, for it can only reflect what your consciousness accepts as true. Holding the feeling of the fulfilled wish is not a temporary exercise. It is a sustained inner attitude, a quiet knowing that what you seek is already yours, even before physical proof appears. Every great transformation begins here. Do not look for evidence in the external world. Do not wait for the conditions to be perfect. Everything necessary has already been provided in the unseen. By assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you step into a realm where desire and reality converge. You awaken to the truth that the life you seek is not something to achieve. It is something to recognize, to inhabit, and to live. Your reality is waiting to respond. Feel it as yours now, and watch as the world bends to reflect the state you embrace. Your imagination is not merely a tool for daydreaming or idle fantasy. It is the creative engine of your life. Every thought, every mental image you hold sends ripples through the fabric of your reality. The world you experience is nothing more than a mirror reflecting the patterns of your inner consciousness. When you vividly imagine what you desire and embrace it with conviction, you set in motion a natural process by which the unseen becomes seen. This is not theory or wishful thinking. It is the law of life itself, responding to the living reality within you. When you engage your imagination, do so with full presence and intensity. Picture yourself living the life you long for. Hear the sounds, feel the textures, notice the details, and allow the emotions of fulfillment to rise within you. Do not imagine the steps to get there. Do not focus on the obstacles or delays. Simply immerse yourself in the state of having, being, or experiencing exactly what you want. The mind cannot distinguish between what is vividly imagined and what is physically present. It accepts the inner reality as truth, and the outer world, obedient to your consciousness, must follow. Conviction is the key. A half-hearted imagination or fleeting thoughts will not influence reality. It is only when you dwell in the imagined state with unwavering certainty that the creative process begins. Your imagination is like fertile soil, and the seeds of thought you plant there will grow into the experiences you witness. The images you hold consistently, coupled with the emotions they evoke, shape your actions and draw people into alignment with your vision. Every event, opportunity, or encounter is a response to the dominant imagery within your consciousness. Do not underestimate the power of repetition and persistence. When you repeatedly return to the same inner scene, feeling it as real, it solidifies within your subconscious mind. The subconscious, which governs the patterns of your outer life, acts upon these inner convictions automatically. External conditions cannot dictate your reality. They only reflect what you have assumed inwardly. By consciously directing your imagination, you become the architect of your life, the silent creator who molds circumstances without visible effort, without waiting for time or external validation. Understand that reality is fluid, responsive, and obedient to your inner life. When you embrace the principle that imagination creates reality, every day becomes an opportunity to shape the life you desire. The world is not something you wait to conquer. It is a reflection of the landscapes you cultivate within. Imagine with clarity, feel with certainty, and watch as your outer world bends to the blueprint you have already drawn in your mind. The present moment is the only point of true power, the only place where creation can occur. All transformation, all manifestation begins here, not in the past and not in some imagined future. When you place your attention fully in the now, you open the door to the infinite potential that exists within this moment. Waiting for the right time, for circumstances to align, or for external proof of possibility only postpones the life you desire. Change is never birthed in hesitation. It is born in the conscious awareness that the moment you inhabit is the moment of creation. Every thought, every feeling, every assumption you entertain in the present has the power to shape your reality. The mind and heart act together to create a world that reflects what you hold as true within. Doubt, fear, and longing are distractions, pulling you away from the fertile ground of now. When you immerse yourself fully in the present, imagining and feeling as though your desires are already fulfilled, you plant seeds that cannot fail to grow. The creative power of life is not deferred. It responds instantly to the state you embody. Notice how the mind often drifts into the past, dwelling on mistakes, regrets, or limitations. Or it leaps into the future, worrying about outcomes, possibilities, and what-ifs. In both cases, the present is ignored, and with it, the only point where transformation can truly occur. By centering your consciousness in the now, by assuming the reality of your desire in this very instant, you align with the creative currents of life. The universe does not respond to your doubts, your fears, or your waiting. It responds to the state of your being in this moment. Living fully in the present requires more than awareness. It demands a deliberate assumption. See, feel, and accept the reality you seek as already true. Allow yourself to experience the emotions, sensations, and confidence of the fulfilled desire here and now. External circumstances may suggest otherwise, but the creative act is independent of outer evidence. When you claim the present as the point of power, when you act, think, and feel from the fulfilled state, now you trigger the unseen forces that bring your desire into physical manifestation. Time is your servant, not your master, but it obeys only when you create from the present. By anchoring your consciousness in the now, by embracing the reality that is already yours, you stop chasing life and begin living it. Every moment becomes the fertile soil for your dreams. The present is where the impossible becomes possible, where visions are realized, and where your reality transforms from thought into tangible experience. The power to change your life is not somewhere ahead, it is here, now, waiting for you to recognize it, to inhabit it, and to allow it to unfold. Faith is not a passive hope or a wishful longing. It is an unwavering inner certainty, a quiet knowing that the reality you desire already exists. True faith is not shaken by appearances or circumstances. It does not depend on external proof. It is the firm conviction that your imagination has already created what you seek, and that the unseen is as real as the visible. Doubt, hesitation, or uncertainty are the only obstacles to manifestation. The moment you replace doubt with faith, you align yourself with the forces that bring your desires into physical expression. To cultivate this inner certainty, you must first recognize that reality begins within. The outer world is a mirror reflecting the state of your consciousness. When you hold a firm, unshakable belief in the fulfillment of your desires, the universe responds in kind. Every event, every circumstance, every encounter begins to conform to the inner truth you have embraced. Faith is the engine of creation. Without it, even the most vivid imaginings falter and fail to take form. It is not enough to visualize or to dream. Your inner conviction must match the reality you wish to see. Faith grows when you consistently dwell in the end, when you feel the reality of your desire as already accomplished. Let the emotions of fulfillment, satisfaction, and joy permeate your being. Do not question how it will come or when it will arrive. Doubt clouds your consciousness and obstructs the flow of creation. Faith, by contrast, clears the path, allowing the unseen to materialize effortlessly. It is a state of inner alignment where you no longer chase the external world. Instead, you exist in the reality you have imagined, and the world bends to meet you there. True faith is quiet yet powerful. It is not loud or desperate. It is calm, unshakable, and absolute. It trusts the invisible order of life, knowing that the fulfillment of your desire is not dependent on timing, circumstances, or other people. It acknowledges that what you imagine and feel with certainty is already accomplished in the realm beyond sense. Every time you reaffirm this conviction, every time you live as if your wish is fulfilled, you reinforce the state that your outer world must eventually mirror. Understand that doubt is the only barrier to the manifestation of your desires. It is the tiny crack through which opportunity slips away, the hesitation that delays the inevitable. Replace it with faith, and your inner world becomes a fertile field for creation. Trust in what is unseen. Believe in the reality you have imagined. Feel it as real. Live from it, and let the certainty within guide your life. The reality you seek is already yours. Faith is the recognition of that truth, and through it, everything changes. Your outer circumstances are not the architects of your reality. They are mere reflections of the inner world you inhabit. Too often, people look outward, believing that their experiences, conditions, or other people determine what is possible. They wait for favorable circumstances, seek validation from others, or allow external events to dictate their sense of possibility. Yet true power lies not in reacting to what appears, but in consciously assuming the state of the fulfilled desire within. Your reality is shaped from the inside out, and the external world can only mirror the assumptions you hold in your consciousness. To let go of outer circumstances is to release the need for evidence, proof, or confirmation. The fulfillment of your desire does not depend on visible signs, it depends on the inner acceptance that it is already yours. When you anchor yourself in this state, the external world is compelled to adjust. Circumstances may seem contrary at first, yet they are not indicators of failure. They are neutral reflections waiting for your inner assumption to assert itself. By focusing on the unseen reality, by living as though your wish is already accomplished, you remove all resistance and allow manifestation to flow naturally. It is only when you accept infinitely that all reality around you is interminable. This does not mean ignoring life or avoiding action. It means shifting your attention from what is seen to what is imagined and assumed. Observe your surroundings, yet do not be swayed by them. Let every outward challenge serve as a reminder that reality is created inwardly. The moment you release attachment to evidence, the weight of outer circumstances dissolves, and you step into a space of creative freedom. You recognize that your inner state is the true determinant of what appears in your life. The world outside is a mirror, reflecting only what you consistently assume to be true. Living in this way requires trust and discipline. Trust that the unseen is as real as the seen. Discipline yourself to remain in the state of the fulfilled desire, regardless of temporary appearances. When you let go of the need for external confirmation, you free yourself from the limitations of doubt, fear, and uncertainty. Your inner world becomes the anchor of reality, and the outer world cannot help but respond. What you assume within is what the universe is compelled to reproduce without delay. Understand that external circumstances are powerless over the one who lives from the end. Your inner assumptions are the invisible laws of creation. When you embrace this principle fully, nothing in the world can deter the manifestation of your desire. By letting go of outer circumstances and holding steadfast to your inner reality, you step into mastery. The world outside will eventually align, for it is compelled to reflect the state you have chosen to inhabit. Your outer life is a mirror, reflecting the state of your inner consciousness. Whatever you see in your circumstances, relationships, or environment is not independent of you. It is a direct reflection of what you have assumed within. This is the fundamental principle of creation. The world outside is governed entirely by the world inside. When you transform your inner thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, your external world must inevitably follow. Change begins not with trying to alter conditions, but with consciously shaping your inner reality. Many people search for change in the outside world. They look to circumstances, other people, or material conditions, believing that transformation depends on them. Yet no matter how hard they strive, outer change is fleeting if it is not rooted in inner change. The moment you consciously take responsibility for your inner state, you unlock the power to reshape your life completely. Every situation you encounter, every person you meet, every event you experience becomes a reflection of the consciousness you maintain. By mastering the inner world, you master the outer world. To transform your inner world, Begin with awareness. Observe the thoughts, assumptions, and beliefs you hold as true. Notice where doubt, fear, or limitation still linger. Then deliberately replace them with the inner conviction of your fulfilled desire. Imagine your life as you wish it to be. Feel the emotions of that reality and persist in dwelling in this state. The subconscious mind, which governs your outer experience, accepts these inner assumptions as truth and acts to bring them into expression. The external world responds automatically. It has no choice but to mirror your inner state. This process requires consistency and inner discipline. It is not a one-time visualization or fleeting thought. It is a sustained inner attitude, a way of living from the reality you desire. Each moment you feel, imagine, and assume your wish fulfilled, you reinforce the state that will be reflected outwardly. External circumstances may appear contrary at first, but they are simply temporary reflections of prior inner assumptions. Persist in the new state, and the outer world will inevitably adjust. Understand that transformation is an inside job. Your consciousness is the seed, and your reality is the fruit. When you change the seed, the fruit cannot remain the same. By consciously cultivating thoughts, feelings, and beliefs that align with your desired life, you command the universe to manifest them. Your external reality is a faithful mirror, obedient to the inner world you maintain. The key to mastery lies not in struggling with conditions, but in transforming consciousness. Change within, and your life outside must follow. The power to create, shape, and direct your life resides entirely in your inner world. As we draw this journey to a close, remember this. Everything you desire is not something to chase or wait for. It is already done. Your reality is a mirror of your inner state, and the moment you assume the feeling of your fulfilled wish, your outer world must respond. Your imagination is the creative engine, the present moment is the point of power, and faith is the unwavering certainty that bridges the unseen with the seen. Let go of outer circumstances, release doubt, and live from the reality you wish to experience. When you transform your consciousness, your world transforms automatically. Release all control. The truth is simple yet profound. You do not need to struggle, convince, or force. What is yours is already yours. All that remains is your recognition, your inner acceptance, and your willingness to live in the state of fulfillment. Step into that reality now, feel it deeply, and watch as the world bends to reflect what you have assumed within. The life you imagine, the world you envision, and the reality you desire are all waiting for you to claim them. Thank you for taking this time to explore the power within you. Remember, the moment you realize that it's already done, everything changes. Embrace it, live it, and allow your life to unfold in alignment with the truth that has always been yours. Thank you. Something has shifted. Not out there, but within you. The heavens have rearranged themselves in response to your faith. The very moment you chose to believe, divine order began to move. Invisible forces aligned, conversations began to unfold, hearts began to open, and doors that once refused to budge started unlocking quietly in the background. You may not see it yet, but everything is moving, and it's moving in your favor. What you have been praying for, what you have been holding in your heart, is not coming someday. It is already here, seeking the right moment to reveal itself. The universe works with perfect timing, not delay. The pause was never punishment, it was preparation. God was not ignoring you, He was organizing everything around you. What looked like stillness was strategy. You are now standing in the vibration of answered prayer. Every challenge that stretched you, every season that tested you, every no that broke you, they were all instruments tuning your spirit to the frequency of your blessing. You could not receive what you were not ready to hold. And now the readiness within you has called forth divine movement around you. The shift has already occurred. Life is responding to your new state of being. When you stop asking when and start knowing now, everything changes. Creation listens to conviction. The moment you feel the fulfillment of your desire, the outer world begins to mirror it. You don't have to chase what's yours. What's yours is already magnetized to your belief. Let go of the anxiety of waiting. Release the idea that you must earn what grace has already prepared. You are not stepping into favor. You are awakening to the favor that has always surrounded you. God just rearranged everything to position you in the right place, at the right time, with the right people. The shift is not coming, it's here. The evidence may not yet be visible, but the outcome is already certain. So lift your head, expect the unexpected, walk as if the promise is fulfilled, speak as if the blessing has already manifested. Feel it, embody it, live it, for this is the language of creation. Gratitude is your signal of arrival. Give thanks now, and heaven will echo it in the form of tangible results. God just moved everything in your favor. The delays have been reversed, the detours redirected, the denials dissolved. The door that once said closed now whispers, welcome. The favor surrounding you is no longer waiting for the perfect moment. It has become the moment. Get ready to receive. Your season of manifestation has already begun. The invisible shift has already happened. Long before you see evidence, long before you can touch or measure it, the transformation has taken place in the unseen. Every time you choose to believe, every time you release doubt and embrace faith, a rearrangement begins in the realm beyond sight. The world you perceive is only a reflection of your inner state, a mirror of consciousness slowly adjusting to match what you have accepted as true. What you call waiting is simply your mind catching up with what your spirit already knows, that the prayer has been answered, the desire has been fulfilled, and the promise has been completed. The greatest illusion in life is the belief that manifestation happens in time. In truth, it happens in consciousness. The very instant you assume the feeling of the fulfilled desire, reality bends to accommodate that assumption. You are not waiting for change. Change is waiting for you to recognize it. Every delay is perception, not divine hesitation. The moment you believe, heaven moves. Angels of alignment begin their silent work. People are prompted. Doors begin to prepare. Opportunities are stirred, and life itself reshapes around your inner conviction. The invisible shift is the real event. What follows in the physical world is simply its echo. Most people miss this moment because they are looking for proof instead of living from faith. They ask, when will it come? Not realizing that it has already arrived in a higher dimension. The universe doesn't work in the language of time, but in the language of vibration. When your frequency matches your fulfillment, the outer world can no longer deny you. You will meet divine coincidences, perfect timings, and unexplainable favor that seem sudden but were set in motion long ago, the very instant you believed. Understand this deeply. You are not creating your desire, you are aligning with what already is. The unseen world is complete. The invisible structure of your miracle is fully formed, awaiting your awareness to call it forth. To wait in doubt is to delay it. To rest in faith is to draw it near. This is why peace is so powerful. It signals completion. When you stop striving, you enter the flow of divine timing. You begin to live from the end, trusting that what you imagined has already solidified in spirit. So stop saying nothing is happening. Everything is happening. The invisible shift is the birthplace of every blessing. It is where the unseen becomes seen, where the promise transforms into presence. Do not confuse the silence of the unseen with the absence of movement. The silence is sacred. It's where creation is at work. The moment you believed, something eternal began unfolding on your behalf. You don't have to force it. You only have to align with it. The shift has already occurred. Reality is just catching up to your faith. To assume the feeling of fulfillment is to step into the end before it appears. It is to claim emotionally what you have not yet received physically, knowing that creation begins within. The universe does not respond to your words alone. It responds to the vibration behind them, the emotion you radiate when you believe something is already yours. Desire without feeling is an empty wish, but desire infused with the emotion of fulfillment becomes creative power. You must feel now what you once hoped for emotion is the bridge between desire and manifestation. When you live as though the desire has already been fulfilled, you begin to shift from asking to receiving. Your heart stops pleading for what it already possesses, and your spirit begins to rest in gratitude. That inner rest is the true evidence of faith. It is the moment when you are no longer trying to make something happen, because in consciousness it has already happened. Emotion carries your belief into the unseen realm and anchors it there. It tells creation, this is real. The more vividly and consistently you can feel that reality, the faster your outer world aligns with it. Every great change begins with a shift in inner feeling. If you want love, feel love now. If you want success, feel successful now. If you want healing, feel whole now. The outer world must conform to the state you persist in inwardly. It cannot resist the vibration of a fully embodied assumption. Life mirrors emotion, not effort. You can speak affirmations for hours, but if your heart still feels empty, you are only repeating words. It is feeling that gives life to thought. Assuming the feeling of fulfillment requires imagination, the ability to live in the unseen as though it were seen. Close your eyes and step into the end of your desire. How does it feel to have it now? What peace fills your heart? What joy moves through you? What gratitude rises naturally as you live from that state? The more real that inner world becomes to you, the more reality must reflect it. This is not pretending or daydreaming, it is a spiritual law. You are training your consciousness to vibrate at the frequency of completion. The moment you sustain that feeling long enough, something powerful happens, resistance disappears. You no longer wonder when it will come or how it will happen, you simply know. You walk through life as someone who already has the answer. You speak differently, move differently, and think differently. The outer world, sensing your inner certainty, begins to rearrange itself in your favor. The people, opportunities, and circumstances that match your feeling of fulfillment are drawn to you effortlessly. To assume the feeling of fulfillment is to merge with your desire now. It is to live in the joy of the answered prayer before your eyes can see it. This is the secret of manifestation. Not to wait for proof, but to feel the proof within. When you do, your world cannot help but echo that feeling in form. Faith is seeing beyond evidence. It is the ability to look at stillness and know that movement exists beneath it. When everything appears unchanged, faith whispers, something is happening. It refuses to be deceived by appearances, for it understands that what is visible is only the shadow of what is being formed in the unseen. Faith is the sight of the soul, the inner vision that perceives divine order at work when human eyes see nothing. To live by faith is to trust the unseen realm more than the visible one, knowing that creation begins invisibly before it takes shape in form. When everything looks still, trust that movement has already begun. Life is not idle, it is intelligent. God never sleeps. While you wait, the invisible world is busy rearranging circumstances, influencing hearts, and aligning paths that you could not have orchestrated on your own. Just because you can't measure progress doesn't mean there is none. The seed grows in darkness before it ever breaks the surface. The roots form underground before the tree appears above it. Faith knows this and rests in that knowing. It doesn't panic in delay because it understands that silence is not absence, it is preparation. Faith is not the denial of reality, it is the recognition of a greater reality. It doesn't close its eyes to problems, but opens them to divine possibilities. To walk by faith is to choose trust over fear, peace over doubt, and vision over sight. The mind wants evidence. It demands to see the outcome before it believes. But faith reverses this order. It believes first, and the evidence follows. The world calls it foolishness, heaven calls it power, but you believe in the unseen eventually becomes seen, for faith gives form to the invisible. The challenge is to remain steady when nothing seems to move. That is where most give up right before the breakthrough. Yet faith endures because it knows that divine timing is never rushed, but always perfect. Even when doors appear closed, faith sees the hidden hand turning the key. Even when opportunities fade, faith senses new ones being prepared. It is the quiet confidence that says, I may not see it, but I know it's coming. And that knowing becomes the magnet that draws the unseen into visibility. Faith is the creative force behind all manifestation. Every answered prayer, every fulfilled dream, every miracle that ever appeared began with someone believing before seeing. The outer world cannot resist a heart anchored in unwavering trust. So when you find yourself surrounded by silence, when nothing seems to shift, remind yourself that the movement has already begun. The current beneath the surface is strong, and it is carrying your desire toward you. Do not doubt the process just because you can't trace it. The unseen realm is already working in your favor. Faith is not waiting for proof. Faith is the proof. Divine order is always at work, silently and precisely rearranging the pieces of your life. You may not see it, you may not understand it, but every delay, every redirection, and every closed door is a movement of perfect alignment. God doesn't need to create new opportunities for you. Everything you need already exists. What He does is reposition what's already there so it can meet you at the point of your readiness. Life is not random, it's orchestrated. Every connection, every encounter, every apparent detour serves a purpose in the grand pattern of divine timing. There are moments when you may feel forgotten, when doors that once seemed open suddenly shut. You may think things are falling apart, but in truth they are falling into place. The path you thought was lost is being restructured to guide you to something greater. Divine order never wastes a moment. It uses everything, your mistakes, your waiting seasons, even your disappointments, to refine you and prepare the stage for fulfillment. The universe does not need to bring something entirely new into existence for your breakthrough. It simply shifts existing elements into divine alignment. Imagine the pieces of your life as stars in a vast sky. At first, they may appear scattered and disconnected, but as time unfolds, those same stars begin to align into a constellation that forms the picture of your destiny. That is divine order at work, transforming chaos into clarity. God's movement is subtle yet powerful. You don't hear the sound of the earth turning, but it turns. In the same way, you may not perceive the rearrangement happening behind the scenes, yet your entire reality is being recalibrated to match your vibration of faith. Readiness is the key. God will never send what you are not prepared to sustain. So instead of forcing outcomes, your task is to align inwardly. As you grow in awareness, peace, and faith, the external circumstances respond automatically. Opportunities that once seemed unavailable begin to find their way to you. People are guided into your life at the precise moment you need them. Resources that once felt distant suddenly appear effortlessly. As if nothing new was created, only repositioned. This is why surrender is so powerful. When you trust divine order, you stop chasing and start allowing. You stop trying to control outcomes and begin to cooperate with the flow. Divine order cannot be rushed, but it can be trusted. Every apparent setback carries the seed of perfect timing. What you thought was rejection was simply redirection. What you assumed was loss was an exchange. God moving something away so something better could arrive. Divine order is not delayed, it is deliberate. The hand of God is quietly arranging every detail, placing you exactly where you need to be. So rest in assurance. Nothing has been lost, only repositioned. The alignment has begun, and the moment your readiness matches the promise, everything will fall into place effortlessly, exactly as it was always meant to. Gratitude is one of the most powerful forces in creation. It is more than a polite response to blessings. It is a state of consciousness that aligns you with divine flow. The heart that gives thanks before receiving declares, I already have it in spirit. Gratitude is faith expressed as emotion. When you give thanks for what you cannot yet see, you bridge the gap between desire and manifestation. You are no longer reaching for something outside of you. You are recognizing that it already exists in the unseen, and that awareness draws it into visibility. To live in gratitude is to live in constant agreement with abundance. It signals to the universe that you trust the process, that you believe everything working behind the scenes is already complete. Gratitude shifts your focus from lack to fulfillment, from waiting to receiving. You cannot hold both complaint and creation in the same heart. One closes doors, the other opens them. When you choose gratitude before evidence, you magnetize miracles, because you vibrate at the frequency of completion. You are saying to life, it is done, and life responds by showing you it is. Most people give thanks after the blessing arrives, but true spiritual power is found in thanking before it appears. That is the language of faith. It is easy to be grateful when the manifestation is visible, but it takes divine confidence to thank God in the silence, to smile in the unseen, to rejoice in the invisible. That is the moment heaven moves. Gratitude transforms energy. It turns waiting into worship and expectation into attraction. Every thank you released from your heart is a signal of readiness, a vibration that tells creation, I am open to receive. When you practice gratitude daily, you change your entire atmosphere. Fear dissolves, worry loses power, and peace takes over. You begin to see blessings in what once felt like burdens. You notice small signs of alignment that others overlook. Gratitude awakens spiritual sight. It reveals the hidden order behind what appears chaotic. It helps you recognize that every delay, every challenge, even every closed door, carries a purpose for your unfolding. Gratitude turns even disappointment into divine preparation. The moment you begin to give thanks, your energy expands, you stop chasing and start attracting. You begin to meet the right people, stumble upon divine opportunities, and witness synchronicities that confirm your faith. The world mirrors the gratitude you hold within. If you are thankful, the universe gives you more to be thankful for. Gratitude is not just appreciation, it is creation. It multiplies what you honor. So begin now. Give thanks not only for what has happened, but for what is on its way. Thank God for the unseen blessings already forming in your favor. Feel the joy of fulfillment before your eyes can see it. The grateful heart lives in a constant state of reception, for it has already declared abundance real. Gratitude doesn't wait for miracles, it invites them. It is the spiritual magnet that draws heaven into your now. You are the vessel of favor. It is not something outside of you that you must chase or earn. It is the divine current that flows through your being. Favor begins in consciousness, not circumstance. When your awareness expands, your capacity to receive increases. The limitation has never been in what God can give, but in what you are willing to believe yourself worthy of receiving. You do not need to pursue favor, you need to awaken to it. It already surrounds you, waiting for your recognition. Every experience of grace, every unexpected blessing, every moment of divine timing is not random. It is a reflection of your inner state. Life mirrors your consciousness. When you see yourself as chosen, doors open. When you feel unworthy, blessings seem distant. The energy of favor cannot flow through a heart burdened by doubt or fear. It flows through faith, gratitude, and awareness. As you lift your thoughts from lack to abundance, from struggle to sufficiency, you become a channel for divine favor to express itself through every area of your life. You are not meant to strive endlessly for opportunities. You are meant to align with them. Favor does not follow effort. It follows awareness. When you walk in the knowing that you are already favored, you begin to attract experiences that confirm it. People sense it. Situations adjust to accommodate it. The universe recognizes the vibration of someone who knows who they are in spirit, one who understands that divine favor is their natural inheritance. This is why self-perception is spiritual power. How you see yourself determines what you allow yourself to experience. If you believe you are surrounded by favor, life will continuously reveal proof of it. When you expect favor, you find yourself in the right place at the right time without effort. Synchronicities become normal, miracles become familiar. What others call coincidence, you will recognize as confirmation. Expansion happens within first. You cannot receive beyond the level of your belief. The moment you expand your awareness to see yourself as blessed, guided, and worthy, the flow of favor increases proportionally. You begin to understand that favor is not limited by economy, environment, or opportunity. It is spiritual, not circumstantial. Even in places of limitation, favor creates pathways. Even in seasons of delay, favor rearranges timing. It does not depend on external permission. It depends on your internal recognition. So stop striving to make things happen and start allowing them to unfold. Live as though favor is already flowing, because it is. Speak as one who expects divine assistance. Move as one guided by unseen support. The more you acknowledge favor, the more visible it becomes. The divine is not withholding anything from you. It is waiting for you to realize that you are the vessel through which blessings flow. As you expand your awareness, you expand your world. Favor is not coming, it is already within you, waiting to be expressed through your awakened consciousness. Everything you've walked through, every delay, every moment of uncertainty has been leading to this realization that nothing was ever missing and nothing was ever denied. The shift has already happened. Divine order has been silently arranging everything in your favor. You are no longer waiting for a breakthrough. You are standing in the vibration of one. What once felt distant is now near, and what once felt impossible is unfolding before you. God wants you to feel it. God wants you to feel the invisible realm has already answered your faith, and now the visible world is catching up to your belief. You have learned that the true work was never about striving, but about surrendering. It was about assuming the feeling of fulfillment, trusting beyond evidence, and walking in gratitude before the blessing arrived. It was about knowing that God didn't have to create new opportunities. He simply had to reposition what was already yours. You are the vessel of favor, designed to receive, radiate, and multiply divine blessings. The moment you expand your awareness, you expand your reality. So as you leave this space of reflection and revelation, walk as one who already has it. Speak with assurance, live with expectancy, and move with peace. The divine has moved everything in your favor. Your only task now is to receive it with joy. Stay thankful, stay conscious, and stay aligned with the truth that you are already favored, already chosen, already complete. Thank you for being here, for opening your heart to these truths, and for allowing this message to awaken something deeper within you. May you carry this awareness into every area of your life, and may everything you touch reflect the divine favor that already surrounds you. Thank you, and get ready. Your time of receiving has begun. You are entering the flow. And this is not something you must struggle to achieve. It is something you are beginning to recognize. Flow is not movement you chase. It is movement that responds to who you are being. When resistance fades within you, life reorganizes itself without announcement. What once felt delayed now feels inevitable. What once required effort now feels natural. Things are coming together because you are no longer standing in your own way. There is a quiet order beneath all events. When your inner world settles into certainty, outer circumstances must rearrange to match it. You may notice that problems resolve themselves without your intervention, that conversations happen at the right moment, that opportunities appear without force. This is not coincidence. This is alignment. Life moves efficiently when it is no longer corrected by doubt. Flow begins the moment you stop trying to control outcomes and start trusting the state you occupy. When you assume harmony within, harmony has no choice but to express itself around you. You are not pushing doors open, you are discovering they were never closed. The sense of struggle dissolves because struggle belonged to an old identity that believed things had to be earned through tension. Notice how ease is becoming familiar. Ease is not laziness, it is accuracy. When you are internally aligned, action becomes inspired rather than forced. You do not rush, yet nothing is late. You do not chase, yet nothing escapes you. Life begins to meet you at your level of expectation, not effort. Do you say? As you remain still inside, movement accelerates outside. The mind no longer argues with appearances, and because of this, appearances lose their power to delay you. What you once called waiting was simply the interval between inner acceptance and outer confirmation. Now that acceptance is complete, confirmation follows naturally. You may feel guided without instruction, supported without explanation. This is the intelligence of life, responding to clarity. When you know internally that things are working out, reality complies. Flow is not something added to your life. It is revealed when resistance leaves it. Stay here, not in excitement, not in fear, but in quiet certainty. Allow the unfolding. Let life show you how efficiently it moves when you are aligned. You are not becoming someone new. You are remembering who you are when you are no longer in conflict with yourself. You are entering the flow, and because of that, everything that belongs to you is finding its way to you now. Inner alignment is the silent decision that occurs before any change is seen. Long before circumstances shift, before evidence appears, before outcomes take shape, something within you settles into agreement. This agreement is not loud or emotional. It is calm, steady, and unquestioned. It is the moment you no longer debate whether something is possible and instead rest in the knowing that it is already so. From this internal alignment, visible results must follow because the outer world has no independence of its own. When the inner state is divided, the outer world reflects that division as delay, resistance, or confusion. But when the inner state becomes unified, when thought, feeling, and expectation point in the same direction, life begins to reorganize effortlessly. There is no need to force outcomes because force only arises when there is uncertainty within. Alignment removes the need to push, persuade, or struggle. What you are aligned with internally becomes the path of least resistance externally. Visible results are not created through repetition of action, but through consistency of identity. When you internally accept a state as true, you begin to think from it rather than about it. Your reactions change without conscious effort. Your choices become natural extensions of who you believe yourself to be. This shift is subtle yet powerful because life responds to the state you occupy, not the words you speak or the wishes you hope for. Inner alignment is often mistaken for optimism or positive thinking, but it is neither. It is certainty without urgency. It does not require signs, reassurance, or constant affirmation. It is the quiet confidence that does not seek validation. When you are aligned within, you do not monitor reality for proof. You allow reality to catch up. This is why aligned individuals appear calm even before success appears. They are no longer waiting for permission from circumstances. The delay between alignment and manifestation is not a test, it is a bridge. During this interval, your role is not to correct the world, but to remain loyal to the inner state you have accepted. Doubt attempts to pull you back into the old identity, but alignment is maintained by refusing to argue with appearances. The moment you stop reacting emotionally to temporary contradictions, you seal the inner agreement. Visible results arrive not as surprises, but as confirmations. When they appear, they feel familiar, almost expected, because you have already lived with them internally. This is the natural order of creation: consciousness first, expression second. Inner alignment precedes visible results because the outer world can only echo what has already been decided within. Stillness is not the absence of movement, it is the absence of resistance. It is the point where inner conflict dissolves and effort gives way to clarity. When the mind becomes quiet, life begins to move with precision. What once felt stalled starts to advance, not because you pushed harder, but because you stopped interfering. Stillness activates natural momentum because it removes the friction created by doubt, fear, and overanalysis. Most people believe momentum comes from constant action, yet action taken from inner tension produces exhaustion rather than progress. True movement begins when you are internally settled. In stillness, the mind stops arguing with the present moment and stops trying to predict or control outcomes. This inner calm creates space for intuitive action, action that feels timely, efficient, and aligned. You begin to move only when movement is necessary. And because of this, every step carries power. Stillness is a state of trust. It signals that you are no longer questioning the direction of life. When you rest internally, you communicate certainty without words. Life responds to this certainty by arranging events, people, and opportunities without strain. You may notice that solutions appear unexpectedly, conversations unfold naturally, and decisions become obvious rather than forced. This is momentum arising from alignment, not effort. Natural momentum does not feel rushed. It unfolds smoothly without chaos or urgency. When stillness is present, there is no panic about timing. You understand intuitively that what belongs to you cannot miss you. This understanding removes the impulse to chase, fix, or manipulate. And in the absence of that impulse, life accelerates. Ironically, things move faster when you stop trying to make them move. Stillness also sharpens awareness. You become more receptive to subtle guidance, ideas that arrive fully formed, impulses that feel calm rather than anxious. These signals are often missed in a restless mind. When you are still, you recognize the next step without effort. You do not need a full plan. Clarity unfolds one moment at a time. Momentum builds naturally because each step arises from certainty rather than fear. Remaining still does not mean withdrawing from life. It means engaging without inner struggle. You act when inspired and pause when not, trusting that both movement and rest are part of the same flow. In this state, setbacks lose their emotional charge. They are seen as adjustments, not failures. Stillness activates natural momentum because it restores harmony between your inner state and the intelligence of life. When you are no longer resisting the present begins to cooperate with you. Movement becomes inevitable. Progress becomes effortless. And life advances with a rhythm that feels both powerful and peaceful. Every experience unfolds from an assumption held quietly within. Long before events take form, before circumstances organize themselves, there is an internal agreement about how life works and what is possible. This agreement is often unspoken and unnoticed, yet it governs the direction of events with precision. What you assume to be true becomes the framework through which reality arranges itself. An assumption is not a hope or a wish. It is a settled expectation. It is what you return to when you are not consciously trying to think positively or negatively. It is revealed in your automatic reactions, your inner conversations, and the conclusions you draw without effort. These habitual inner positions shape how events unfold, because life mirrors the state you consistently occupy. When an assumption is unstable, events appear unpredictable. There may be moments of progress followed by reversals, clarity followed by confusion. This inconsistency reflects an inner mind that has not decided. But when an assumption becomes firm, the unfolding of events gains coherence. Life begins to move in a single direction because the inner state is no longer divided. You are no longer sending mixed signals through doubt and hope. You are resting in certainty. Unfolding events do not respond to what you want in moments of desire, but to what you expect in moments of calm. This is why forcing belief rarely works. Repetition without acceptance creates tension, not change. An assumption takes hold only when it feels natural, when you no longer argue with it internally. At that point, the world begins to rearrange itself in subtle ways. Timing improves, resistance fades, and situations align without explanation. You may notice that once an assumption is accepted, your behavior changes without effort. You speak differently, choose differently, and interpret situations differently. These shifts are not strategies, they are reflections of identity. And because your identity has changed, the sequence of events must change as well. Reality does not respond to effort, it responds to being. Temporary contradictions often appear as assumptions settle. These are not signs of failure, but adjustments in progress. If you react emotionally to these moments, you reinforce the old assumption. If you remain neutral, the new assumption continues to shape the outcome. The unfolding process requires loyalty, not strain. The key is to refuse to renegotiate your inner agreement based on temporary appearances. As events unfold, they often feel natural rather than dramatic. There is no shock, only recognition. You realize that what is happening now is what you quietly expected all along. This familiarity is proof that the assumption preceded the experience. Assumption shapes unfolding events because reality is not reacting to isolated thoughts, but to the underlying state of consciousness you consistently return to. Change the assumption, and the sequence of life must reorganize itself to match. Effort is the natural response to uncertainty about who you are. When identity is unclear, action feels heavy, forced, and repetitive, as though you must constantly push life to respond. This strain is not caused by the task itself, but by the inner question of whether you truly belong in the outcome you seek. The moment identity becomes clear, effort begins to dissolve because there is nothing left to prove or chase. Identity is not a label or a role, it is a state you accept as normal. It is how you see yourself when no one is watching, how you expect life to respond to you, and what you assume is available without struggle. When this inner image is unstable, you rely on effort to compensate. You try harder, plan excessively, and repeat actions in hopes of producing results. But when identity is settled, action becomes a natural expression rather than a tool for control. Clarity of identity shifts the source of movement. Instead of acting to become something, you act from being it. Decisions become simpler because they no longer require justification. You do not ask whether you deserve success, peace, or abundance. You operate as someone for whom these are natural. From this position, effort loses its emotional charge. You still move, but movement feels light, direct, and efficient. When identity is clear, resistance fades. You stop fighting circumstances because you no longer see them as obstacles to your worth or progress. Challenges are interpreted as temporary adjustments rather than threats. This interpretation alone reduces strain. Life begins to cooperate because you are no longer internally divided. You are not pulling in one direction while doubting in another. Much of what is called effort is actually self-correction, constantly monitoring, fixing, and adjusting based on fear of failure. Clear identity removes this need. You trust your direction because it aligns with who you believe yourself to be. This trust allows space for intuition to guide action. Ideas arrive without pressure, timing improves, and the right steps present themselves naturally. Effort dissolves not because action stops, but because action becomes aligned. You no longer rush, yet nothing is delayed. You no longer overthink, yet clarity remains. The mind is free from inner conflict, and in that freedom, energy is conserved and redirected into meaningful movement. When results appear, they feel earned but not strained. There is no exhaustion in success, only confirmation. You recognize that what manifested did so because you were no longer resisting it internally. Identity did the work before action ever began. The effort dissolves when identity is clear because clarity removes the struggle of becoming. You are no longer trying to arrive somewhere else. You are expressing what you have already accepted as true. Timing is not something you control, it is something that responds. When you stop forcing outcomes, life reveals its natural order. What appears as delay is often alignment in progress, and what feels like urgency is usually resistance to the unfolding. When force is removed, timing begins to arrange itself with precision that no planning could achieve. Force arises from fear that things will not happen unless you push. This fear disrupts rhythm. It causes premature action, misaligned decisions, and unnecessary struggle. When you trust the state you occupy internally, urgency dissolves. You no longer rush events because you are no longer trying to escape the present moment. In this calm acceptance, timing becomes intelligent rather than reactive. Timing, in its essence, whatever is reacting on a regular basis. Events align when you are internally ready to receive them. Readiness is not effort, it is alignment. When your thoughts, expectations, and identity agree, circumstances move to meet you. Conversations occur at the right moment. Opportunities surface without strain, and solutions arrive just as they are needed. None of this requires pressure, it requires patience, grounded in certainty. Forcing timing often creates resistance because it contradicts inner knowing. You may achieve short-term movement, but it feels hollow or unstable. True alignment brings results that feel settled and sustainable. When timing arranges itself naturally, there is no chaos surrounding the outcome. It feels inevitable, as though it could not have happened any other way. There is a subtle discipline in allowing timing to unfold. It is the discipline of not reacting emotionally to appearances. Temporary delays are invitations to remain faithful to your inner state. The moment you interpret delay as failure, you reintroduce force. But when you see delay as alignment completing itself, you remain calm and centered. This calmness keeps timing intact. You may notice that when you stop pushing, things begin to accelerate. This is not coincidence. Force creates friction, trust removes it. When friction is gone, movement becomes smooth. You take fewer steps, yet cover more ground. You say less, yet communicate more clearly. Life responds to your inner composure. Timing also protects you. It ensures that outcomes arrive when you can sustain them. What arrives too early often collapses under pressure. When timing is allowed to arrange itself, outcomes come with stability and ease. You are not overwhelmed by success or shaken by change. When results finally appear, they do not feel late, they feel exact. You recognize that everything unfolded in sequence, each moment preparing the next. This recognition brings peace rather than regret. Timing arranges itself without force because life operates with intelligence. When you align internally and release urgency, that intelligence organizes events on your behalf. All you are required to do is remain aligned and allow the unfolding to complete itself naturally. Flow is not something you build or manufacture. It is something you notice when resistance ends. It does not begin with effort or intention, but with recognition. The moment you stop trying to create harmony, harmony reveals itself. Flow has always been present beneath your striving, waiting for you to stop interfering with it. Creation implies struggle, planning, and control. Recognition implies awareness, allowance, and trust. When you believe you must create flow, you place yourself outside of it as though it is missing and must be summoned. But flow emerges when you realize that life is already moving intelligently, and that your role is not to force direction, but to align perception. Once perception shifts, movement feels natural rather than forced. You enter flow the instant you stop arguing with the present moment. Resistance fragments attention and drains energy. Recognition gathers energy by removing internal conflict. When you accept what is without emotional reaction, the next step becomes obvious. You do not need a grand vision. Clarity unfolds moment by moment. This is why flow feels effortless. It does not require constant decision making. Flow is often mistaken for excitement or constant motion, but it is neither. It is calm, focused, and precise. In flow, you act when inspired and pause when not, trusting both states equally. There is no guilt in rest and no tension in movement. Each action arises naturally from awareness rather than pressure. When flow is recognized, you stop trying to prove yourself to life. You no longer measure progress obsessively or compare your pace to others. You trust your rhythm because it feels internally aligned. This trust allows life to coordinate events around you with ease. People arrive at the right time, information appears when needed, and obstacles dissolve without confrontation. Recognition also shifts identity. You stop seeing yourself as a separate individual struggling against circumstances and begin to experience yourself as participating in a larger order. From this perspective, effort becomes unnecessary. You are not pushing the river. You are allowing it to carry you. Movement happens through you, not because of you. When results appear in flow, they feel natural rather than dramatic. There is no shock, only confirmation. You recognize that things unfolded because you stopped resisting them. The ease itself becomes evidence of alignment. Flow is recognition, not creation, because nothing new is being added to life. What changes is your relationship to it. The moment you recognize that you do not need to force outcomes, life reveals how smoothly it has been moving all along. In that recognition, struggle dissolves, timing aligns, and everything begins to come together without effort. Your faith that all things will unfold as they would meant, as needed have to be. Your inner, as everything you've heard comes together, one truth remains clear. Life responds not to struggle, but to alignment. When you settle inwardly, movement begins outwardly. When you stop forcing, timing organizes itself. When identity becomes clear, effort fades. What once felt complicated simplifies, not because you tried harder, but because you finally trusted the inner state you chose. This is the moment to remain still, not passive, but certain. Let flow be recognized rather than created. Allow events to unfold without interference. What belongs to you is already in motion, arranging itself with precision and ease. Your only responsibility is to stay loyal to the inner agreement you have made, knowing that outer confirmation must follow. Everything is coming together because you are no longer resisting the process. The path is opening, not through effort, but through awareness. Stay aligned, stay calm, and let life complete what has already begun. Thank you. There comes a moment in every life where the invisible begins to shift, where the unseen starts to take form, where the whispers of your inner world rise with such certainty that the outer world has no choice but to reshape itself. You are standing in that moment now. Everything you have asked for, everything you have prayed for, imagined, affirmed, and held in the quiet chambers of your heart is coming together beautifully for you. Even if the surface appears unchanged, beneath it, life is in motion. Forces you cannot yet see are arranging themselves in perfect harmony. The pieces you once thought were scattered are finding their place. The doors that seemed sealed are preparing to open. What was denied is circling back, this time prepared for you. Your job now is not to worry about how. Your only task is to assume the end with confidence, to walk, speak, breathe, and think as the one who already has the life you desire. The world responds to your inner stance, not your outer circumstances. The moment you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, creation is complete. You are not trying to manifest. You are recognizing what is already yours. Do not let your senses deceive you. They show you only what was, never what is becoming. Reality is adjusting itself behind the scenes with precision, aligning people, opportunities, timing, and events so perfectly that when your desire appears, it will feel effortless, almost too easy. You will look back and realize that every delay was alignment, every pause was preparation, and every closed door was protection. Right now, you are being prepared to receive what you once thought was impossible. Your desire is not on its way. It is unfolding, it is crystallizing, it is materializing. through the path of least resistance. So shift from doubt to certainty, from waiting to welcoming. Stand tall in the knowing that your new reality is inevitable. Everything is coming together beautifully for you. Everything is aligning in ways your mind cannot yet comprehend. Everything you asked for is arriving, gently, powerfully, undeniably. Get ready to receive. Get ready to step into the version of yourself who always knew this moment would come. Get ready to witness life bow to your inner conviction. Your time is not approaching, your time has begun. Your inner assumption is the silent architect of your entire life. Long before anything appears in the physical world, it is first shaped and molded in the unseen territory of your inner state. What you assume to be true about yourself, about life, and about your desires becomes the blueprint that your outer world must follow. You are not reacting to life as much as you are calling it toward you, summoning its events through the quiet convictions you hold. Every assumption is a seed, and whether you are aware of it or not, your world is constantly rearranging itself to match the atmosphere of your inner beliefs. When you assume something with feeling, you are giving it permission to take form. The universe does not respond to your wishes, your doubts, or your fears. It responds to your dominant assumption. If you assume that good things come to you easily, conditions will gather to prove you right. If you assume that life is always working against you, situations will rise in agreement with that belief. This is not punishment or reward. It is simply the nature of consciousness. Life mirrors you faithfully. It is neutral until you give it direction. Your senses may show you a world that contradicts your desire, but your inner assumption pays no attention to appearances. When you assume the end, you override what is, and you impress upon the subconscious what must be. The subconscious does not argue, question, or analyze. It accepts whatever you claim internally, and in its unfailing intelligence, orchestrates the outer world to reflect it. This is why two people can live in the same environment, face the same circumstances, and still encounter completely different realities. Because each is governed by their own assumptions, not by the world around them. The power of assumption lies in its ability to bypass effort, struggle, and force. You do not have to manipulate the physical world. You do not have to chase, persuade, or push. Once you assume something as already true, you shift into the state of the person who has it, and life naturally reorganizes to support that identity. The outer world bends to the inner one, not the other way around. That is why imagination is more potent than action, and why belief outweighs circumstance. To change your life, you must change the assumptions you live by. Begin to observe the quiet stories you repeat to yourself. Things never work out for me. I'm always struggling. I'm still waiting for it. These are not harmless thoughts. They are commands. Replace them deliberately with assumptions that align with the life you desire. Everything flows to me effortlessly. I am always chosen. My desires materialize quickly and beautifully. Hold these new assumptions not as wishes, but as facts. The moment you embody the feeling of the wish fulfilled, the moment you take on the inner certainty of the one who already has what they desire, everything around you begins to shift. People change. Circumstances change. Opportunities arise that were previously invisible. Life becomes cooperative, responsive, and remarkably fluid. There is a realm beyond your physical senses, a quiet dimension where the roots of every manifestation are formed long before they reach the surface. Just because you cannot see the evidence of your desire in the material world does not mean nothing is happening. In truth, the unseen is already moving on your behalf, arranging circumstances, aligning opportunities, and guiding events in ways too intricate for the human mind to comprehend. The lack of visible change is not a sign of stagnation. It is simply the period where the invisible structure of your desire is being assembled. If it is not shaped, every intention you set, every assumption you adopt, and every inner image you hold with conviction sends a signal into this unseen realm. This signal activates forces that begin orchestrating the path of least resistance to bring your desire into form. You may not notice these changes immediately because the early stages of manifestation occur beneath the surface. Just as roots expand underground long before a plant emerges, life works with impeccable coordination. Timing, people, and opportunities must all align in perfect harmony, and this alignment occurs silently. When you doubt the process, simply because you cannot yet see the results, you disrupt the flow of what is already unfolding for you. But when you trust the unseen, you cooperate with the divine intelligence that is orchestrating your reality. Trust is not passive. It is a deliberate decision to believe in the invisible over the visible, the becoming over the current state. It is an inner knowing that the moment you desired something, the process of fulfillment began. Many breakthroughs happen in moments where everything seems unchanged. You may wake up one morning and discover that the entire trajectory of your life has shifted. Not because the shift happened overnight, but because it was quietly building for weeks, months, or even years. The unseen does not operate on your schedule. It operates on the perfect schedule. What appears as delay is often preparation. What feels like waiting is often alignment. What seems like silence is often the loudest movement behind the scenes. Think of all the situations in your life where things suddenly fell into place. Moments of unexpected solutions, perfect timing, or meaningful coincidences. These were not accidents. They were the visible reflections of invisible work that had been happening long before you became aware of it. The same unseen forces that shaped those moments are shaping your current desire. The key is to remain steady in your inner conviction, even when the outer world shows no sign of progress. The world you see is always a step behind your inner world. By the time the physical evidence appears, the unseen has already completed most of the work. That is why manifestations often feel instantaneous when they finally show up. They were in motion long before your senses caught up. So do not be fooled by appearances. Do not allow the absence of visible change to convince you that nothing is happening. The unseen is always moving, always weaving, always responding to your inner state. Hold your vision with quiet certainty, for the invisible currents of life are already flowing in your favor, bringing your desire to you in the most effortless and precise way possible. The desire is not a mere wish, nor is it a fragile hope waiting for permission to exist. A true desire is a spiritual announcement, a signal from the deeper, wiser part of you revealing what is already prepared. The moment you felt the desire, the moment your heart recognized it, creation was complete. You are not trying to bring something into existence. You are simply moving toward the realization of what is already yours. Desire is proof of ownership. not a request for approval. Most people misunderstand desire. They treat it as something distant, something that may or may not come, something they must chase or struggle for. But the truth is far more powerful. Your desire is a finished reality, waiting for your recognition. It is a snapshot of your future self, calling you forward. It is the evidence that somewhere in the unseen, this version of your life already exists. You are not dreaming about what could be, you are remembering what is. When you accept this truth, desire shifts from stress to certainty. It becomes a promise, not a possibility. You stop begging life to give you what you want and begin aligning with what is already waiting for you. You no longer plead, you prepare. You no longer seek, you expect. The moment you embraced the desire, a new timeline unfolded, one in which your wish is already fulfilled. Creation is finished the instant the desire enters your awareness, because desire and fulfillment are a single event seen from two different angles. The desire is the seed, the fulfillment is the harvest. But both exist in the same spiritual moment. Time is simply the bridge that allows your human experience to catch up with what your inner being already knows. Your role now is not to force or struggle. Your role is to shift into the state of the one who already possesses the desire. How would you think, speak, and feel if this desire were already manifested? That inner shift is what draws the outer manifestation into your life. You are not creating reality, you are selecting it. You are not making something happen, you are allowing what is finished to appear. Doubt is the only thing that delays realization. Doubt makes you believe you are separate from what is already yours. But the moment you return to the state of certainty, the pathway clears. Life begins to move around you. Circumstances rearrange themselves. People, events, and opportunities shift to mirror the reality you internally occupy. Think of how many things in your life once seemed impossible, yet eventually unfolded in ways you could never have predicted. Those manifestations were not random. They were the result of desires you had already accepted internally long before they appeared outwardly. This is the same process happening now, only with greater awareness and intention. So rest in the knowing that your desire is a delivered promise. It is not coming, it has already arrived in the unseen. You are simply aligning with the state of receiving it. Nothing can stop what is already complete. Nothing can block what was already yours the moment you desired it. Your only task now is to prepare your mind, your emotions, and your expectation to meet the reality that is already waiting for you. Imagination is the sacred bridge that carries you from where you are to where you desire to be. It is not a fantasy or a daydream. It is the creative workshop of your reality. Everything you have ever achieved, created, or experienced first existed as an image in your mind. Before it became physical, it was imagined. This is because imagination is the blueprint of creation, the connecting thread between the invisible and the visible. When you learn to dwell in the end, within your imagination, you instruct the outer world to reshape itself accordingly. Your imagination is not limited by time, circumstance, or logic. It is free from all the restrictions that govern the physical world. In imagination, you can be, do, or have anything instantly. And the state you consistently occupy in imagination becomes the state your outer world must conform to. This is the great secret. The outer world does not change first. The inner world does. The unseen informs the seen. Your senses may insist that nothing has shifted, but imagination bypasses the senses entirely. It works at a higher level of truth. When you dwell in the end, you enter the version of yourself who already has the desire fulfilled. You think their thoughts, you feel their feelings, you embody their confidence, their assurance, their peace. This inner embodiment is what magnetizes the corresponding outer events. You are not waiting for the manifestation, you are rehearsing it internally until it becomes natural. What feels natural inside becomes inevitable outside. Most people make the mistake of using imagination to replay fears, doubts, and unwanted scenarios. They imagine what they don't want with far more intensity than what they do. And because imagination is always creative, the world responds to those inner images just as faithfully. But when you deliberately choose to dwell on your desired outcome, you redirect the full power of your imagination toward fulfillment. Imagination is not wishful thinking, it is a deliberate act of creation. It is a decision to prioritize the inner truth over the outer appearance. When you imagine the end with conviction, you shift your state of being. And the world mirrors not your desire, but your state. The moment the end feels normal to you, when it stops feeling like a dream and starts feeling like a fact, the manifestation begins to crystallize in the physical world. As you live in the end through imagination, subtle changes begin to happen. Your behavior shifts without forcing it. Your energy becomes more aligned. You take inspired actions without overthinking. People show up, opportunities unfold, timing aligns. What once felt far away moves closer because you have bridged the gap internally. Reality adjusts itself, not because you worked harder, but because you occupied the state of the fulfilled desire. Imagination is your greatest power because it allows you to enter the version of yourself who already lives the life you desire. And once you become that version internally, the outer world has no choice but to rearrange itself. You are not imagining to escape reality, you are imagining to command it. The more you dwell in the end, the sooner the end becomes your lived experience. Confidence in the invisible is the true foundation of effortless manifestation. It is the quiet, unwavering knowing that what you desire is already yours, even if your physical senses have not yet caught up. This kind of inner certainty is not loud or boastful. It is calm, steady, and deeply grounded. It is the understanding that what is unseen is far more real than what is currently visible. You receive not according to what you want, but according to what you expect. And expectation is simply belief in motion. Most people do not fail to manifest because their desires are too big. They fail because their doubt interrupts the natural flow of what is already forming for them. Doubt creates emotional friction. It introduces hesitation into a process that needs your trust. When you doubt, you energetically push away what is trying to come closer. Doubt says, I hope it happens, but I don't truly believe it will. And life mirrors that indecision. Expectation, however, is a completely different state. Expectation is spiritual confidence. It is the feeling of preparing for what you know is coming. When you expect your desire, you shift your inner posture. You stop worrying about timing. You stop analyzing the how. You stop seeking constant reassurance. Instead, you move through your days with a quiet assurance that everything is aligning in your favor. Expectancy is not pretending. It is not forcing belief. It is choosing to trust the invisible more than the visible. Every manifestation begins in the unseen. The physical world is always the last place the change appears. When you understand this, you no longer panic when there is no outer evidence. You recognize that the invisible stage is the most active stage. The roots are growing, the structure is forming, the path is clearing, and your belief is what allows the process to continue without obstruction. Confidence in the invisible means you behave differently. You speak from the end, you think from the end, you carry yourself like someone whose desire is inevitable. You do not cling, chase, or force. You prepare, you make space, you welcome. You don't look for signs, because you are the sign. The state of certainty within you is the proof that your desire is already realized in the spiritual realm. When you expect something, you naturally begin to align with it. Your emotions elevate, your actions become more intuitive, your decisions become more aligned. You naturally move toward the opportunities that lead you to your desire, often without realizing it. Expectation accelerates the manifestation because it removes the resistance that doubt creates. And here is the truth. You only receive what you are prepared to receive. If your desire showed up today, would your state match it? Would your inner world be ready? Expectation places you in the receiving mode. It turns you from someone who wants into someone who has. Doubt delays because it keeps you in a state of separation from your desire. Expectation accelerates because it unites you with it. So cultivate confidence in the unseen and trust the invisible processes at work. Everything you desire is already formed. Your expectation is what opens the door for it to enter your reality. Your new reality is not a distant possibility or a fragile hope. It is an inevitability. The moment you assumed the end, the moment you claimed your desire internally, a new timeline unfolded for you. This timeline is not dependent on effort, struggle, or force. It is dependent on alignment. Your only real work now is to surrender to what is already yours. Surrender is not giving up. It is giving in to the natural flow of the reality you have already selected. When you force, you are acting from a place of disbelief. Forcing comes from the fear that if you do not push, nothing will happen. It is rooted in the assumption that the desire is far away. But when you surrender, you are acting from the inner knowing that everything is unfolding perfectly. Surrender says, I trust the process. I trust the timing. I trust that what is mine cannot be lost. Forcing creates resistance. Surrender creates flow. Your manifestation is not coming. It is arriving. This is an important shift. When something is coming, it feels uncertain, conditional, dependent on circumstances. It implies distance. But when something is arriving, it is already in motion. You are simply awaiting its appearance. The universe has already received your inner declaration. The arrangement of circumstances, people, and events is already underway. The outer world is catching up to the inner decision you have made. Your job now is to step out of the way. When you worry, when you check for signs, when you question the timing, you stand between yourself and the reality already moving toward you. Surrender means you stop micromanaging the universe. You release the need to control the path and focus instead on maintaining the state of the one who already has their desire. The more you rest in that state, the faster your new reality solidifies around you. Surrender is a state of peace. It is a deep exhale. It is the internal declaration that you no longer chase what is yours, because what is yours is already on its way. You no longer obsess over the how, because the how is not your responsibility. The path will reveal itself in the perfect moment. The same intelligence that gave you the desire is the same intelligence orchestrating its fulfillment. And this arrival often feels effortless. Manifestations tend to come in ways you did not predict, through channels you never expected, and at moments that feel divinely timed. You look back and realize that every delay was alignment, every pause was preparation, and every detour was leading you to something better than you imagined. This is the beauty of surrender. You allow the universe to exceed your expectations instead of trying to force an outcome based on your limited perspective. Your new reality is inevitable. It is locked in. It is done. All you need to do is relax into the knowing that the version of you who already has your desire is not a fantasy. It is your truth. Live from that version now. Think like them, move like them, feel like them. Let their confidence become your normal. As you surrender to this version of yourself, your outer world will rise to meet it. In the end, everything you desire is already taking form in the unseen. Your assumptions are shaping your reality. The invisible currents of life are aligning in your favor. Your desires are delivered promises. Your imagination is the bridge that carries you into fulfillment. Your confidence in the invisible accelerates your receiving, and your surrender allows the inevitable to unfold. You are not waiting for your new reality. You are stepping into it. Every inner shift you make is a declaration to the universe. And life is responding to you with precision, beauty, and perfect timing. Trust the process. Rest in the knowing. Live from the end. What you seek is already yours, and it is arriving in ways more effortless and extraordinary than you ever imagined. Thank you for listening, for believing, and for allowing these words to remind you of your power. Your transformation is already happening. Thank you.